Hello there, thanks for joining us. I'm Raymond Goh and this is Nightline. The top stories. Government to set up special task force to monitor CMCO compliance. And Bank Negara slashes key interest rate to 2%. Good morning. 59 different chambers of commerce and industry associations have come out in support of the government's decision to allow a majority of the economic sector and business activities to resume operations under the Conditional Movement Control Order. In a joint statement on Tuesday, the heads of these associations urged all states nationwide to comply with Putrajaya's decision to restart the economy, highlighting that supply chains were closely interlinked with different states. The associations expressed confidence that Putrajaya's decision was based on solid data and lengthy considerations to balance between public good and economic well-being. They said firms could no longer afford to remain closed as they had to fulfill their financial obligations, adding that they also had to safeguard the people's livelihood by keeping them employed. The parties added commerce and industry are integral to Malaysia's economic and social well-being and must be allowed to function without interruptions. Among the chambers and associations which had signed the declaration are Malaysia International Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Malaysian Rubber Glove Manufacturers Association, Master Builders Association Malaysia, Motorcycle and Scooter Assemblers and Distributors Association of Malaysia, Malaysia Aerospace Industry Association, and the National Tech Association of Malaysia. A special task force has been set up by the government to ensure that the standard operating procedures, SOPs, under the Conditional Movement Control Order are being adhered to at all times. Senior Minister for Security Cluster, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, said 14 enforcement agencies had been given the authority by the Health Ministry to implement the enforcement and monitor the compliance of SOPs. Among the agencies are the Police, Malaysian Armed Forces, ATM, the Malaysian Civil Defence Force, APM, the Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency, MMEA, and the People's Volunteer Corps, RELA.
Jadi, sekarang ini tumpuan pihak polis, pihak berkuasa adalah dari segi pematuhan kepada SOP. Oleh itu, Polis Diraja Malaysia ataupun PDRM telah menubuhkan Special Task Force operasi pematuhan bagi pemantauan dan penguatkuasaan pematuhan SOP di seluruh negara.
Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri also said that the government had ordered for the district police chief in all states to set up a task force comprising the police, ATM, RELA, APM, as well as local authorities to ensure that the SOPs under CMCO were adhered to at district level. The police, he said, would advise first before taking any action. He added if the two approaches were ignored, then legal action could be taken against them in accordance with the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases Act 1988, Act 342. The Defence Minister also praised business premises owners and the public who had been observing the SOPs and self-regulating on the first day of CMCO Monday. He said although most had expected chaos since the movement restrictions were more lenient, it turned out to be under control. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said employers must ensure their migrant workers are tested for COVID-19 to prevent Malaysia from experiencing a spike in cases similar to Singapore. He also urged employers to understand the objective of the new ruling.
Kerana kita tidak mahu berlaku seperti di negara jiran kita, iaitu di Singapura, yang selama ini agak mendatar dari segi kes positif mereka, kes COVID positif mereka. Tetapi kerana adanya kluster baru iaitu kluster warga asing di Singapura, akhirnya Singapura kenaikan COVID positif mereka dari segi grafnya mendadak naik tinggi. Jadi kita tidak mahu itu berlaku kepada negara kita.
He was responding to a criticism from the Malaysian Employers Federation, MEF, that employers could be spending up to R1 billion to test all foreign workers. Datuk Sri Ismail also explained that some 60% of foreign workers are contributors to the social security organisation SOCSO, with COVID-19 covered under the scheme. In his daily media briefing, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri also denied that the government has imposed the enhanced MCO on 2 new areas in Selayang and Chow. However, he said those within the areas will be swab tested for COVID-19.
Belum. Selagi saya tidak umumkan, maknanya tidak ada PKPD. Tapi setengah tempat tu kita perketatkan kawalan dia secara administratif, secara pentadbiran. Jadi mungkin kita kawal dengan kawat berduri dan sebagainya, tetapi dari segi kita tidak kita isytiharkan sebagai PKPD lagi. Tapi kita kontrol dari segi keluar masuk.
It was earlier reported that Taman Wilayah and Taman Desa Bakti in Selayang had been placed under EMCO, while barbed wires have been placed across 8 roads in Chow. The Health Ministry will re-strategise its plan in preventing and controlling COVID-19 pandemic within a week or 2. Its Director General, Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah, said the plan would involve manpower, health equipment, labs ability and public health.
Dan sekarang ni kita lihat pun penggunaan ward ICU dan juga ward COVID semakin berkurangan. Jadi mungkin dalam masa ini kita akan menggunakan masa mungkin seminggu 2 untuk kita memberi time off kepada warga kerja Kementerian Kesihatan bergilir-gilir, dan juga kita akan memberi counselling juga kepada mereka dalam untuk mereka dapat pertahankan diri untuk menghadapi kalau ada peningkatan kes lagi. Jadi kita harap kita prepare for the worst, but we hope for the best.
He also thanked the other frontliners such as police, soldiers, immigration department and the non-governmental organizations that have been working together with the MOH in achieving the positive results. In the meantime, the Health Ministry confirmed 30 new COVID-19 positive cases, the lowest number recorded in a day since the MCO was implemented on March 18th. Dr. Noor Hisham said this brought the total number of cases in the country to date to 6,383.
Daripada 30 kes baru yang dilaporkan, tiada kes import pada hari ini. Ini bermakna kes penularan tempatan adalah sebanyak 30 kes, di mana sebanyak 21 kes telah dikesan dari kluster dan lokaliti di bawah Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan Diperketatkan yang melibatkan 24.
He also said another patient succumbed to the disease on Tuesday, taking the death toll to 106. He added that 83 patients had recovered and allowed to go home, bringing the cumulative number of discharges to 4,567, which is 71.55% of the total number of cases. All 10 core initiatives in the Prihatin Rakyat Economic Stimulus Package have been implemented, comprising 95% of the total package valued at 260 billion ringgit. Finance Minister Datuk Sri Tengku Zafrul Abdul Aziz said this percentage included all government aid channeled to the people, such as Bantuan Prihatin Nasional (BPN) during the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the minister, an additional allocation of at least 1 billion ringgit may be required on top of the 10 billion ringgit originally earmarked under BPN, which is a one-off cash assistance for the B40 and M40 groups.
Dalam setiap perkongsian laporan ini, seringkali fokusnya adalah pada angka-angka status pelaksanaan. Namun begitu, saya ingin mengingatkan diri saya dan juga anda semua bahawa bantuan ini lebih daripada angka semata-mata. Ini adalah mengenai kehidupan dan nyawa rakyat. It is about real people, real lives, real livelihoods.
During the first phase of the BPN payout ending last week, 5.5 billion ringgit had been given to 7.78 million recipients, up from 7.74 million in the previous week, which involved 5.47 billion ringgit. Payments under Phase 2, which began Monday, would be made in stages to 8.3 million approved B40 and M40 recipients, involving funds of 3.7 billion ringgit. As of April 29th, nearly 2 million new applications and appeals had been approved, involving a total of 1.5 billion ringgit. Following this latest development, payments for new eligible applications and appeals will be made starting the middle of this month. Dato' Sri Tengku Zafrul also said the government had allocated 2.1 billion ringgit for the Special Prihatin Grant, or GKP, for micro enterprises. Announced in the additional Prihatin SME package, the initiative was opened for application on May 1st and involved disbursing 3,000 ringgit in grants to active micro, small and medium enterprises. Applications for the GKP could be made until May 15th, and payments for approved applicants are expected to be made at the end of next month. As for the wage subsidy program, up to May 3rd, a total of 1.9 billion ringgit of wage subsidies have been approved for the benefit of 235,000 employers and their 1.7 million workers. Meanwhile, the government has doubled the allocation for the Employment Retention Program, ERP, to 240 million ringgit from 120 million previously for employees who were forced to take unpaid leave during the MCO.
Selaras dengan hasrat kerajaan untuk menyokong kelangsungan perniagaan dan melindungi pekerjaan rakyat, dalam fasa kita masuk fasa PKP ini, kerajaan telah bersetuju untuk menambah peruntukan untuk ERP sebanyak 120 juta ringgit.
The program is aimed at providing a financial aid of 600 ringgit a month for 6 months to the workers on unpaid leave. The ERP was approved on March 16th by the Economic Action Council. Until the end of April, the financial aid had been approved for more than 52,000 employees. Two local banks, namely Malayan Banking Berhad Maybank and CIMB Group Holdings Berhad, will be reducing their base rate BR and base lending rate BLR by 50 basis points BPS, in line with Bank Negara Malaysia BNM's overnight policy rate OPR cut on Tuesday. In a statement on Tuesday evening, Maybank announced that it will be reducing its BR and BLR by 50 BPS, effective May 8th to 2% from 2.5% per annum, while its BLR will also be lowered to 5.65% per annum from 6.15% per annum. Its Islamic BR will also be reduced downwards to 2% per annum from 2.5% per annum previously, while the base financing rate, BFR, will drop to 5.65% per annum from 6.15% per annum previously. According to its President and Chief Executive Officer, Dato' Abdul Farid Alias, the reduction is another step to support the country's economy. Separately, CIMB Group, in a statement, said both CIMB Bank Berhad and CIMB Islamic Bank Berhad would be cutting their BR, fixed deposit, FD, and fixed return income account IBOR rates by 0.5%. Similarly, all financing activities based on its BLR and BFR will also be reduced by 0.5%. It is understood that all rate changes will take effect on May 13th. The central bank's announcement of lowering its OPR by 50 basis points to 2% from 2.5% is a level last seen during the 2008-2009 global financial crisis. With the latest decision, the OPR has been reduced by a total of 100 basis points, complementing other monetary and financial measures by Bank Negara as well as fiscal measures this year. Bank Negara noted that global economic conditions have weakened significantly, with measures to contain the pandemic causing economic disruption worldwide. Recent indicators show that the global economy is already contracting, with global growth projected to be negative for the year. Financial conditions have also tightened amid elevated risk aversion and uncertainty. Growth prospects should improve in 2021 with the expected containment of the pandemic. Meanwhile, economists have welcomed the decision by BNM as it will increase liquidity and boost the economic recovery at a faster rate.
Jadi ini bermakna pihak Bank Negara Malaysia telah pun berusaha secara upaya untuk memberi sokongan yang positif dengan memberikan orang kata itu kadar kecairan yang tinggi, begitu juga kadar pinjaman ataupun kadar pembiayaan begitu kompetitif supaya ekonomi akan bergerak semula, terutama dalam ketika yang mana beberapa langkah telah pun diambil untuk membuka semula kegiatan ekonomi.
Meanwhile, MIDF senior research analyst Imran Yassin Mat Yusof said the reduction in the OPR will reduce the cost of borrowing and make existing loans cheaper. This will also increase cash flow for businesses and encourage borrowings. Indirectly, this will stimulate the economy. Four individuals arrested over human trafficking. This and more after the break. Welcome back. The prosecution and defence in former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak's SRC International Sdn Bhd trial have submitted hundreds of pages of written submissions to the High Court. Deputy Public Prosecutor Muhammad Izzat Fauzan said Datuk Seri Najib's lead counsel, Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi Abdullah, had prepared 643 pages of written submissions, while the prosecution submitted 306 pages. He added both submissions were given to the court on Tuesday. He said May 19th was set for both parties to reply to the written submissions. The oral submissions before Judge Muhammad Nazlan Muhammad Ghazali were fixed for 3 days from June 1st to 3rd. On March 11th, the defence closed its case after calling 19 witnesses during the defence trial that ran for 33 days since December 3rd last year. The prosecution had earlier called 57 witnesses to the stand. The Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency, MMEA, have detained 4 more Myanmar men suspected to be behind the smuggling of 202 migrants believed to be Rohingya into the country via Langkawi on April 5th. Kedah and Perlis MMEA Deputy Operations Director, Maritime Captain Zulinda Ramli, said they were detained following information from 2 men who were arrested earlier on April 16th and 18th at Simpang Empat and Gua Cempedak near Yan. The 4 suspects, aged between 24 and 53 years, were detained separately on Sunday in Simpang Empat and Kota Sarang Semut and in Pendang District. It is understood that MMEA is still on the hunt for 2 other suspects who have been identified as the main culprits in regulating the entry of foreigners, particularly Rohingya ethnic people, into the country. Zulinda said she did not rule out the involvement of locals in the syndicate. However, the matter is still under investigation. A drug ring allegedly selling marijuana vape liquid online was crippled by Bukit Aman's Narcotics Criminal Investigation Department, NCID, after having arrested 17 people. The bust was made on April 29th and 30th in the Klang Valley, where investigators also seized vape liquid worth over 58,000 ringgit. Narcotics Criminal Investigation Department Director Dato' Ramli Haji Din said the suspects arrested were all Malaysians, except for a woman with permanent resident status and a foreign student from a higher education institution. 14 have been charged in court, while 3 more are now witnesses still under investigation. 5 suspects have previous criminal records and 2 of them also tested positive for drugs. Police have also taken action against the 3 online platforms. Neighbouring countries report more COVID-19 cases. Stay with us.
Di Borak Kopitiam TV3.
Onto the foreign front. Singapore reported an additional 632 of COVID-19 infections as its total confirmed cases breached the 19,000 mark on Tuesday. Most of the new cases were work permit holders living in foreign worker dormitories, while 9 are Singaporeans and permanent residents. The Health Ministry has so far classified 1,229 as community cases, 579 as imported cases, and 577 cases involving work permit holders not residing in dorms. Foreign workers at dorms dominated the tally of 18,778, taking 87.3% or 16,393 cases. The Republic has also identified 3 new clusters on Monday, with the largest cluster, S11 dormitory at Punggol, so far recording 2,510 confirmed cases. On a positive note, there have been no more cases linked to Little Gems Preschool at Ang Mo Kio Street and the dormitory at 55 Sungai Kadut Loop for the past 2 incubation periods. Meanwhile, Indonesia on Tuesday reported its biggest daily rise in COVID-19 infections with 484 new cases, taking the total number of cases in the country to 12,071. According to its health official, Ahmad Yuryanto, 8 more deaths were also reported, bringing the total death toll to 872, while the number of patients who have fully recovered from the disease in Indonesia now stands at 2,197. Over in Europe, France on Tuesday announced 306 more deaths in the last 24 hours, more than double the figure of 135 from the day earlier, bringing the total death to 25,201 people. The country is due to emerge on May 11th from a lockdown that began in mid-March to combat the virus, with officials warning the country must remain cautious to ward off a second wave. According to the latest figures, the more positive recent trends continued, with 123 fewer patients suffering from the coronavirus in intensive care, to make a total of 3,696 receiving such urgent treatment. Russia cemented its place as the European country reporting the highest number of new COVID-19 infections on Tuesday, as its total cases soared past 155,000. Health officials reported 10,102 new infections over the last 24 hours, a decrease of 531 cases from Sunday's record surge, bringing Russia's total to 155,370. The Kremlin has emerged as a new coronavirus hotspot as many European countries unveil plans to ease lockdown measures after their numbers of new infections and deaths began to fall. Now let's take a look at the highlights in Malaysia's main newspapers for Wednesday, May the 6th. The New Straits Times highlights on the country's situation following the implementation of the Conditional Movement Control Order, while Harian Metro focuses a report on MCO violators who are set to celebrate Aidilfitri in prison. Berita Harian highlights the special task force which will be set up to monitor the SOP compliance during CMCO, while a report on cheaper loans following the Bank Negara's overnight policy rate cut gets the front page of the Malaysian Reserve. Do get your copies today or subscribe to the e-papers. And that's it from Nightline this time around. We leave you now with visuals of a Palestinian youth swirling a homemade sparkler fireworks made of steel wire wool as the locals observe the holy month of Ramadan in Rafah refugee camp in the southern Gaza Strip. With that, I'm Raymond Goh. Thank you for tuning in and take care.